What if the biggest economic war in the world isn't happening on headlines, but in the shadows? While the world focuses on tariffs and trade wars, a far more dangerous battle is quietly reshaping global power.
We're uncovering why China is winning the economic shadow war backfired, and why the United States may already be behind.
My name is Ahmed, and you're watching Macro Syntax, Fidishin, where we decode power, economics, and the future. On this channel, we go beyond surface-level news and break down the real forces shaping geopolitics and global economies. For years, we were told the US-China conflict is about tariffs, trade deals, and negotiations. But that's not the real battlefield. The real war is silent, strategic, long-term, and it's being fought over technology, resources, and supply chains. This is not a war of headlines. It's a war that will decide who controls the global economy for decades. If you want clear, intelligent explanations of global power shifts like this, make sure you subscribe to Macro Syntax and turn on notifications. Because understanding these hidden systems is no longer optional. In Hubei, it's essential.
So let's begin. This is why China is winning the economic shadow war.
Now, let's move to the whiteboard and break this down step by step.
For years, we've all been told the biggest economic fight on the planet is this big, loud tariff war, right? It's all over the headlines. But what if I told you that's all just a distraction? That the real war, the one that actually matters, is happening completely in the shadows, and you're not even supposed to know about it? I'm serious. All that noise about import taxes, you know the drill. Washington slaps on a new restriction, Beijing hits back. It's this back and forth, never-ending drama. But here's the secret. That whole fight, it's just smoke and mirrors, designed to keep our eyes off the real game. Yeah, because while the US was busy throwing these big, flashy punches in the ring, China was literally rewriting the rulebook for the entire sport. They're not just playing the long game here. No, they are fighting a completely different war, a shadow war, for total, and I mean total, economic control.
So let's do it. Let's pull back that curtain. We're going to forget the headlines for a bit and dive into the real war, the one that's happening right under our noses. See, the tariff war, that's all about shipping containers and percentage points. It's kind of boring. But the real war, oh man, that's fought with something way more powerful. Ruthless industrial policy and this insane drive for complete self-sufficiency. This is a war for control over the tiny little circuits and the weird-sounding minerals that literally run our entire world. So what is this master plan? Well, it all boils down to this one strategy that is, frankly, both brilliant and kind of terrifying in how effective it is. It basically takes everything we thought we knew about global trade and flips it completely upside down. Okay, the fancy term for it is asymmetric decoupling. I know, it sounds like something out of a textbook, but trust me, the idea is brutally simple. Think of it this way. The US keeps talking about decoupling from China, right? To become less reliant on them. Well, Beijing heard that and went, that's a great idea. Let's do our own version. Their plan? Make China need the world less, while making the world need China more. And you can see the difference right here. The US goal is like, hey, let's both entangle a bit. But China's goal? No. They want a one-way street, a world where all the most important supply chains lead right back to Beijing, creating these brand new dependencies that, you guessed it, they get to control. And look, this wasn't some knee-jerk reaction to the trade war. Not at all. They've been planning this for years, with big initiatives like Made in China 2025. When the US finally started the trade war, it didn't slow them down. If anything, it hit the accelerator. For Beijing, the American sanctions were just confirmation, proof that becoming totally self-reliant wasn't just a goal, it was a matter of survival. So, you gotta ask, did the tariffs even work? The answer is a big fat no. Not even close. By 2025, China's trade surplus with the rest of the world exploded to a mind-blowing $1.2 trillion. That's the biggest in human history. They just went out and found new customers. So yeah, the US landed a punch, but China's economy just ate it and kept right on building its real weapons in the background.
And there's no better place to see this shadow war in action than in the insane battle over semiconductors. You know, the tiny little computer chips that are the brains inside, well, literally everything you own. Okay, so the US strategy was pretty simple. They looked at China and said, aha, their weak spot is chips. The plan? cut off China's access to the world's most advanced chips and the super complex machines that make them. The thinking was, if we do that, we cripple their tech industry. Boom, checkmate, game over. But it wasn't checkmate, not even close. It was the starting gun for a race. China's response wasn't to try and find some clever little loophole. Oh no. Their response was to say, fine, we'll just build our own damn industry from scratch. And they decided to fuel it with one of the most insane spending sprees in history. Meet Big Fund 3. This is China's newest government-backed fund just for their chip industry. And get this number, $47.5 billion. Let that sink in. This isn't just about building a few new factories. This is a declaration of all-out war on being dependent on anyone else for technology. Period. And here's where it gets really clever. They know they're still playing catch-up on the super advanced, cutting-edge chips, so in the meantime, they're making a massive power play to completely dominate the market for the, let's call them the boring chips. You know, the older, less sexy ones that are in your car, your microwave, your TV, literally everything. Their plan is to flood the world with these cheap chips and create a whole new kind of dependency that's actually way more fundamental. And this whole playbook, it's not new. They've done this before. To really get what they're doing with chips, you have to look at a battle they already fought and won. A monopoly they started building way back 40 years ago. I'm talking about rare earth elements. If you've never heard of them, that's okay. But these 17 metals are the absolute secret sauce in everything. I mean, F-35 fighter jets, giant wind turbines, the screen on the phone you're probably holding right now. Seriously, without these things, there is no green energy revolution. There is no modern military. It's that simple. And here's the kicker. China's dominance here is not some lucky accident of geology. It's not like they just have all the rocks. Look at this timeline. This was a cold, calculated 40-year plan. While Western countries were shutting down their mines because they were dirty and expensive, China went all in. They invested like crazy and just accepted the environmental damage as the cost of doing business, the cost of owning the entire global market. And the results today? It is absolutely staggering. China now controls the processing of an estimated 90% of all rare earths. Think about what that means. Even if the US or Australia mines the raw dirt out of the ground, they still have to send it to China to be turned into something useful. That's not just a monopoly, my friends. That is a global chokehold. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The West didn't just outsource the dirty work, it outsourced its own strategic independence. This was never about who could do it cheaper. This was always about power. While the West was chasing the dream of free trade, China was methodically, systematically building leverage. Okay, so you see, semiconductors and rare earths, they're not two different stories. They are two pieces of the exact same puzzle, the same grand strategy. So let's connect the dots. Because once you see this pattern, you start seeing it everywhere. Solar panels? Check. EV batteries? Check. They dominate green tech. Global shipping and trade? They're literally rewiring how it all works, routing things through other countries just to get around tariffs and make sure they stay the world's factory. This isn't just playing the game. This is redesigning the entire board. So what's the end goal of all this? It's to build an economic fortress. A fortress China that's a completely self-contained, closed-loop system. A place that can invent its own tech, build its own products, and sell to its own people. Totally insulated from any outside pressure. Meanwhile, the rest of us, we're stuck on the outside, totally hooked on whatever they decide to lower over the drawbridge. And this, right here, is the bottom line. For decades, the West had this one big idea. If we just trade with China, they'll eventually become more like us. They'll start to play by our rules. Well, that assumption turned out to be spectacularly wrong. This whole thing proves that this isn't a fight that's going to be won with a few tariffs. This is a battle for the entire architecture of the 21st century economy. So, you see, China isn't just playing a different game anymore. They've spent the last few decades building their own stadium, with their own referees and writing their own rulebook. This shadow war, it's about to step into the light. And that leaves all of us with one huge critical question. What happens when the rest of the world is finally forced to play by their rules?
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon